Okay, I think we are live. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our live stream. My name is Cindy and I am joined today by Juana and Daniel. We are organizers with New Sheriff Now, and we're also joined by Rolando, who will be sharing his story with us today. So we are a coalition group of organizers who seek new leadership, transparency, and accountability in the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department. We understand the urgency of bringing to light the deadly and current issues that exist in the Tarrant County Jail, and of having someone who acknowledges the impact of mass incarceration, policing, and immigration enforcement on our Tarrant County communities. So we are here today because we want to, and we must continue to hold the Sheriff's Department accountable for the criminalization, lack of transparency, and harm that they have created. So I'd like to begin with a moment of silence to mourn the lives lost due to Sheriff Bill Wayborn's failure to take action. We offer our love to all the families grieving for their loved ones who have been incarcerated and impacted by the criminal justice system. All right, and I'll go ahead and hand it over to Juana, who will be starting off with an overview of today's conversation.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. My name is Juana, and I'm also an organizer, as Cindy mentioned, with New Sheriff Now. As an overview, our conversation will be focused on the current Tarrant County jail conditions. We will hear from Rolando, who was previously detained in Tarrant County Jail, and from a jailer at the Tarrant County Jail who will remain anonymous. We will end this town hall with our calls to action, because in order to win, we need everyone to join this fight. But before we get started with discussing the jail conditions and listening to Rolando and the jailer stories, as we wait for more people to join us today, I want to give you a quick overview of how you can take action to stop the injustices happening at the Tarrant County Jail, especially if you have already heard a little bit about this, if you've been following our page or you joined us at the last town hall in May. We will go into detail on these at the end of the town hall as well, but I'll give you an overview right now. So we're asking everyone first to share your story. Use the hashtag Tarrant Speaks and hashtag Tarrant Habla. We're also inviting you to sign up to volunteer. Go to our site, New Sheriff Now Tarrant County.org. And thirdly, we're asking you to join the fight now. We're asking you to join us. We have a very concrete date, this Saturday, August 15 at 5 p.m. So we are asking you to join us then. And lastly, we do, as Cindy mentioned earlier, we're seeking to get better leadership and get more transparency in the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department. So we're asking you to register to vote and to help us attain this goal. So again, right before, just a quick overview before we go and listen to Rolando and the anonymous jailer. The following is a brief overview of what we know is happening right now inside the Tarrant County Jail. And there are many things, but I will only be mentioning 5 right now. So I'm sure many of y'all have heard, but we are continuing to bring this up because we must not forget that this is something that has happened, and we must continue to ask for accountability and for transparency, because as y'all also know, we have not received any of those despite many of these things happening. So the first thing I'll mention here is that a woman with mental health needs gave birth alone in her cell in the Tarrant County Jail, and her baby died a few days later. The second thing is that, not only did this happen, but around the same time or since April, 5 people who have been detained in jail have died in jail custody, including one person of suicide due to jail negligence. And just 3 people alone died in 1 week in June. This is very concerning, and I'll go over the third point, which is that besides everything that we're going through, I mean, this pandemic has been a very big stressor and something that has been a concern, and how the conditions look like right now. Not only has the sheriff refused to advocate for the compassionate release of medically vulnerable people in jail, but he has failed to provide even very basic hygiene needs, like soap and all of that. So that is something that has really concerned us, especially with how difficult, I mean, near impossible to do social distancing inside of these jails. So the fourth thing is that the Tarrant County Jail was recently decertified, and the sheriff kept it a secret. The Tarrant County Jail is the largest jail in the state with a clean certification record for 30 years. But this year, the decertification was lost under Sheriff Bill Wayburn, despite him claiming that this is normal. But as we know, this has not happened in 30 years, so it really can't be that normal. The fifth thing is that on the most recent thing, in fact, that we have heard of is that, we found out on July 30th, a Star Telegram reporter reported that a Tarrant County jailer slammed a person inside the county jail, and they incurred several injuries, including bleeding in their lungs, a collapsed lung, multiple rib fractures, and a broken cheekbone that will require surgery. And one of the officers actually said that the assault is a normal thing in that housing unit, which again is very concerning, because these kinds of things, we cannot accept these kinds of things as being normal. So I will now pass it off to Cindy, who will introduce us to Rolando.
Johanna. So the first person that I would like to introduce today is Rolando Borrego. He was previously detained in the Tarrant County Jail. Hi, Rolando. So thank you for joining us today and for being willing to share your story. We wanted to give you some time and space to share your experience while incarcerated in the Tarrant County Jail before we ask a series of questions.
Okay. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you, Rolando.
Okay. Am I supposed to be speaking right now or what?
Yes, Rolando. So we wanted to start off by giving you some space to share a little bit about your experience while at the Tarrant County Jail and to hear your story.
Well, all I think is that it all just needs, they just need to be more sanitary about all their stuff instead of using the solvents that they use for cleaning the whole facility at all. They don't use Clorox. There's fights every day. There's blood on the floor. There's food on the floor. There's roaches. It's real unsanitary. And I just think that would be like the main part of something that they need to take care of, because there's people walking around with staph infection and all kinds of infections, and they're walking around. Everybody's sick. And I got beat up while I was up in there, and I got my nose broke. I never got it taken care of. And they just need to be more clean about everything. They need to wash their clothes right. All the suits that they give us, the uniforms, they're all dirty. Or if not, they're all torn, and they just have us slap on some torn uniforms. And mostly it's just they just need to be more. They need to use Clorox. If they could use anything, Clorox would be like the number one thing to disinfect the showers and the sinks that we use. Everybody uses at the same time, instead of using a solvent that they use for everything from cleaning the windows to cleaning the table.
Thank you for sharing that, Rolando. A little bit about this experience. How long did you have to put up with that uncleanliness? How long were you incarcerated for?
For 7 months. I was in there for 7 months, and I had to put up with all that same stuff every day. And when I say it's insanitary with like maggots and stuff. Maggots coming out of the shower, coming out of our sink that everybody uses to fill their soup bowls up, to make their food, do all that stuff. And there's
Rolando,
just
okay.
a lot of dirty people up in there. They got they got homeless people. They got all different kinds of people up in there.
So Rolando, as you are sharing about
And
your,
that's all I gotta say right now about that. I can't think of anything.
so you mentioned the conditions in the facility, Rolando. In regards to keeping your clothes clean, did you have to buy any toiletries or any cleaning supplies? Or can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes. Yeah, well, if you wanted to wash your clothes, you had to buy a bar of soap to wash your underwear every day. You had to clean your own self. So you got to buy your own bar of soap, and everything gets really expensive in there too. So, like, if you want to be living clean in there, you have to have money in commissary for sure. Because they got detergent, they got soaps, bars of soap, and then they got food. But mostly what you need it for they have toothpaste, they got toothbrushes, and that's like stuff you need like every week. You need to buy like a couple bars of soap just because you need to wash your clothes. And sometimes the uniforms that they give us are so bad that they give us rashes on our backs and like pimples and like all kinds of stuff. This is like it was real dirty. And
You said
this
they,
is something that we'd have to take care of ourselves, with our commissary money and having to wash their clothes.
yeah, Rolando, you said that
And that's what I gotta
they,
say about that too.
yeah, thank you for sharing, Rolando. You mentioned that they had a lot of people in there going through different things. Did you notice anyone being sick around you? How are they treated if they were sick?
They had a detox like a detox doctor come by and give them stuff to get off of the drug that they were on or whatever they were on. Because some would come in with like warts all over their hands, boils, and like everybody's scratching at them. They're bleeding all over the place. And they ain't using the right stuff inside the building to sanitize anything like that.
And Rolando, you mentioned that you were injured while.
So they come in there, they're pretty rough.
Thank you, Rolando. You mentioned that you were injured while you were incarcerated. Uh, can you share a little bit more about that experience and the type of care that you received?
At the same time, I had got bitten in my ear by a brown recluse, so I had my ear stitched together so to keep it from swelling. And I was barely getting booked in, and I ended up getting in a fight with this guy over a seat, and he broke my nose, and I still got the scar on my nose. They wanted to do surgery, but how I was locked up, I didn't want to be locked up, have the surgery done, and me be in a very insanitary place. Like it would have been like real dirty for me to go get a surgery done and just be in jail. So they offered to fix my nose, and I had to refuse it. I said I'll be out soon, and then I'll take care of it then. But I'm not gonna do it while I'm locked up because there's so many infections going around inside the building that me with a big old cut on my nose, surgery done. I just didn't want to be inside jail with that. And that's the only time I got injured.
Thank you for sharing, Rolando. I know we've covered a lot of the conditions, or you've mentioned a few of the things going on there while you were there. Can you share, just to bring to light some things that you wish people knew about, or some things that you wish people knew about people who are locked up? Like, what are some misconceptions or things you wish people didn't think about people who go to jail?
I really can't say anything about that because everybody's in jail for something, you know. Everybody screws up somehow. That's the only reason they end up in jail. Some people it's for love, and some people it's just because it's a hate crime, you know. Or some people are just that broke to be in jail. So everybody got their own reason for being in jail. I couldn't say that nobody deserves to be in jail. I don't wish that upon anybody, but everybody got their reasons for going into jail. And why wouldn't I want anybody locked up? It's just, some people are in there for like, small stuff and they're still in jail, like traffic tickets or people just going in for petty stuff and they're getting locked up with murderers, They got a few days in jail just for traffic tickets and they're in there with the murderers. That's where they're housing all the murderers in Tarrant County. And
Thank you for
there's a lot of kids in there that are locked up in there for doing some bad things. But, they all did what they did. And it's just something that I'm pretty sure they wish they would have never done, but they're so young and dumb that, I felt bad for them.
Yes, thank you for sharing, Rolando. No one deserves to be behind cages and undergo this type of violence. So as we're wrapping up the series of questions, we want to give you a chance to share anything else that you might want to share about your experience and the way it's impacted your relationship with your family, or anything that you'd like to share with anyone watching.
I was just saying that nobody deserves to be in jail of how dirty it is, But my family, it's impacted my family a lot because I used to own my own business. I was making $80,000 a year, and I screwed up hiring the wrong people, and it brought me to jail quick. And now I lost my company, and I'm trying to rebuild it right now.
Rolando, what's one thing that you appreciate about being home with your loved ones and your support system now that you are home?
Just to be able to be here and help them out. Because we lost our father at a real young age, and we've always stuck together. Me and my family have, and I've always helped them out with everything, from paying the rent, paying the bills, and I'm used to making the money and paying the bills, and they just do whatever they want. But I felt bad just being home now that I don't got nothing. But I'm happy that I'm home, that I'm able to have another start at rebuilding my business again.
Thank you, Rolando. Well, we appreciate you sharing your story, and we raise your story, and we know that yours is one of the many of the ways that people have been impacted or even died as a result of the negligence of these systems. And no one deserves to be isolated from their loved ones. and everyone deserves to have that support and the community in a way that can actually allow them to thrive and have that chance to live a life of dignity. So we thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And so now, as we move forward, we want to go ahead and open it up to Daniel, who will help with facilitation. We are going to be hearing from an anonymous jailer today, who will be answering some of our questions. So Daniel will be relaying the message to ensure that the jailer's name, again, is anonymous. So thank you for joining us and for sharing your experience today. We want to start off by asking a general question of how have things changed at the Tarrant County Jail since Wayborn took office?
So things have gotten worse. We are short-staffed, overworked, and morale is low.
What are the areas in which the current jail administration is failing?
Communication is bad, and the safety and security of the staff and inmates is not a priority. Example is that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. The chief wants quick fixes on issues. Captains want to make themselves look good. And the sheriff just wants everyone to think all is well. There is no accountability at all.
Have any attempts been made to fix these issues? If not, why do you think that is?
Not really. They say they will look into it, but nothing ever changes.
What is morale like among staff?
It's a big problem. This is a big area with problems. They either do not care or don't understand if your staff is unhappy. If so, their work ethic will be average at best. Officers go to work not knowing. They go to work knowing that they'll be set up for failure. An example is officers being put into areas with little or no experience, then blaming them when things go wrong. There's mandatory overtime instead of volunteer basis.
I think I was on mute. So about how many people have left since Wayborn has been in office, and if they gave any reasons, what reasons did they give?
Wow, a lot. So many good officers and supervisors either left or retired early due to the way the administration is run. There's a lot of favoritism. Since this administration took over, the company employees, or what this person is saying, the good old boys, get put in prime areas and are promoted. So favors for favors.
How many things have changed for incarcerated people?
The structure has changed. This causes staff and inmates to become frustrated due to the lack of consistency. This creates a lot of chaos, which at times can become violent and aggressive. Changing orders daily or by shift makes the officers look like they're changing daily routines and don't know what they're doing. This puts a lot of pressure on officers and inmates.
And how are incarcerated people treated?
If you went to the jail right now, I bet you will see inmates in special management covered in both feces and urine.
Since COVID, I've heard families say that they're having a hard time getting in touch with their loved ones. What kind of changes have been implemented in visitation and phone calls? And do you think the changes are helpful or good?
So phone calls have been difficult if the inmate is in a quarantine tank. And they're only allowed to use the phone when they come out on rotation to day room, and they have not helped.
As Juana mentioned earlier, 5 people have died in jail custody since April. 1 baby was born and died, and at least 1 man was beat by a guard while 2 other guards watched. What would you say is contributing to this violence and this recent spate of deaths?
The lack of leadership is the biggest reason. Failure to provide proper training, being short-staffed, or failure to place experienced officers in critical areas causes shortcuts. And this is just one example that causes the problems that you mentioned.
So we're running out of time, so I'm just going to ask a couple more questions before we wrap this section up in regards to the jail conditions. But in regards to overcrowding, is the jail overcrowded? And if so, what do you believe is contributing to that, apart from COVID, prison holdovers?
So overcrowding has always been a problem. It's been due to the fact that Tarrant County takes over inmates from other Tarrant County agencies, and this makes numbers go up. Taking over inmates at area hospital before being cleared by medical causes, Tarrant County to have an officer watch them until they get cleared for the jail. Some of these inmates have serious health issues like cancer, heart surgery, brain surgery, and majority of these inmates are arrested for probation and misdemeanors. The COVID problem just brought this to light. When classification moves mental health inmates to general population, due to the need of bed space, the safety and security of the inmates and officers are at risk.
So as we talk about COVID, how would you rate Wayborn's handling of the pandemic in the jail and why?
Low. You cannot do a good job on COVID if you barely run the jail. Incompetency and be reactive instead of proactive is dangerous, and we have seen this with this administration. Policies would change day to day. For example, masks for inmates only. Officers don't need masks. Then it changes. Then only officers on sick days, officers on sick inmates need masks. Then all officers need masks. However, medical staff was told from day one to wear masks. There was no contact tracing for officers who were in contact with infected inmates or fellow officers at the beginning. Officers were not tested until recently, yet they went to work daily, possibly already being infected.
So as we're wrapping this up, is there anything else that you would like to share with our community and voters?
Sheriff Wayborn's administration has failed the staff, inmates, and taxpayers. We are tired of the BS and lies. He promised if elected, he would change, he would address being overworked, underpaid, and short-staffed, and the issue of morale being low. Nothing has changed.
Thank you for facilitating that conversation, Danielle. Thank you for sharing the reality of what is happening inside the Tarrant County Jail. It's important that we understand that the sheriff has the power to stop this negligence and violence. So we must continue to hold him accountable for his failure and lack of humanity, because everyone who is currently inside the Tarrant County jail is fighting for their lives, and that's a reality. So I'll hand it over to Juana, who's going to share a little bit about what power we hold as a community to make a change and to continue to create accountability and talk about what we can do as a community.
Thank you, Cindy. So as we conclude this town hall, let's take a second to take in everything that was just shared today. It was a lot, and we really need to process all of what we just heard and what it means for us and our community. Let's start by asking ourselves, what are we going to do? What can we do? And what change and what power do we even have in order to make this change that we want to see? We can begin with this conversation of stopping the criminalization and mass incarceration of our communities. We must fight to protect our loved ones so that not one more life is lost. And through all of that, we must understand that we do have power when we come together. We must remain engaged, and we will gain strength in each other. So hopefully at this point, you're moved to want to take action, and you're wondering, how can you join this fight? We're inviting all of y'all to take action through the following things that I will share just now. So the very first step, we're inviting you again, we mentioned this at the beginning, is to help us shed light and to really shed light on your own story. Everyone's truth deserves to be heard. and we must really share this so that people know what's going on inside the Tarrant County Jail. It's easy to ignore it when no one is talking about it, so let's not stop talking about it. Let's share our stories, just like Rolando did today, just like the jailer shared their story with us. Let's continue to do that. And if you have a story and you want to take it to social media, do that using this hashtag Tarrant Habla, hashtag Tarrant Speaks. So that's one way that we're inviting you to do this. We also, there are several different ways to get involved with New Sheriff Now. So we're asking you to sign up to volunteer. If you go to our website, you'll see a link where you can sign up to volunteer. And one of those first things that you can do is in order to, more or less, your first step in this fight can be to join a volunteer orientation this Saturday, August 15 at 5 p.m. We will be going over very specific things that we do as a team and that we want you to take action with us, especially as we get closer and closer to the elections. And as we mentioned at the beginning, the elections are super important because they are local, and that is, it has a lot of impact in what goes on in our communities directly. So the next thing we'll invite you to do is that if we go to the last but not least thing that you can do to help or to join this fight is to register to vote. This deadline is October 8th. And as we will continue emphasizing, the sheriff elections are very important. I think we are all learning just how much power the sheriff holds and how much destruction and how much of his own political agenda he brings into our own communities and gets away with, because as we see, there are systems in place that continue to allow him to do that. So let's say no more. We will not continue to let him go doing whatever he wants to do with our communities without holding any type of accountability or any type of transparency. Really, he hasn't been very transparent with us from the beginning. So let's continue to shed light on this and how much there is so much lack of transparency. He wants us to believe that everything is perfect inside the Tarrant County Jail, and we are here today and always to remind everyone that things are not perfect. There are many stories like Rolando's and like the jailer who shared their story with us on what really is going on inside those jails. So I misspoke a little earlier. The last day to register is October 5th. So don't miss the deadline, register to vote by then. And early voting starts October 13th and election day is November 3rd. So yes, everyone, please register and also sign up to volunteer, join us this Saturday, share your story. Let's continue to join together and build and push so that the sheriff does not get away with what he's doing. And I'll pass it on to Cindy to conclude this town hall.
Thank you, Juana, and thank you everyone else. I just want to reiterate what Juana mentioned earlier, which is the power that we hold as community to really be able to create accountability, because the reality is that, Sheriff Wayburn doesn't want to hear these stories. He doesn't want the truth to come out. And so we do hold power in sharing the truth of what's happening inside. And from what we can tell from today's stories, that Sheriff Wayburn does not value human life, right? And so he has not taken the responsibility to confront the problems and the harm that he has caused as a result of, and the impact to our community as a result of his negligence and incompetence, and which has resulted to the deaths of our people. So I just want to remind everyone, please join the fight. Take a look at the comment sections. Our website will be shared there where you can join to see how you can be part of our conversation and join the orientation that we're having this Saturday. So we must continue to push forward, right? We must continue the fight so that we can remove the person who is currently holding that power. And we do have the powers as community to elect a new sheriff in November. So let's do that. And again, just as we're wrapping up, I do want to thank Rolando, who is here, for sharing his story. I want to raise his story again. And thank you for allowing us to be part of the fight alongside you. And thank you everyone who joined us tonight virtually. Please continue to stay engaged, share our posts, and join us again this Saturday to be part of the conversation. It's important that we continue the fight, y'all. Thank you and good night.